All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind, but we're going to have a show.
We are going to have a show. What up, everybody? It is a great Wednesday morning show. It's morning here in America, everyone. It's morning in America. It's morning in California. Hi to all of our East Coasters and all around the world. Welcome. We are live from California where it is cold. In fact, we have had snow in many parts of the state. Yeah, very, very, I'm talking about not just the mountains, but in parts of the state where you wouldn't necessarily commonly find snow. More on that as we continue. Welcome back, Kim, everyone. Yes, Kim is back after a 2-day hiatus. For those who may not have followed it, Kim's son is 9 years old. And he got a 2-day 9-year-old birthday party.
That's right. Well, no, it was just a family, the four of us.
Yeah, but it's a celebration. So.
Yeah.
Anyway, I understand. Aloha from Maui, says Walter. Wow. That just sounds so great, man. Oh, Maui sounds pretty sweet, doesn't it? Yeah. I love it.
Where are my weed smokers at?
Yeah, there are a couple in Maui, baby. That's true. All right, let's get started. I love it. I love it. I love it.
Girl, you just woo.
Girl, you just woo. Great to have you back. Kim, Albert, great to have you. The sexiest man in America joins us at 10:35. He is John Rothman. He'll talk about Dianne Feinstein and China and Ukraine. I hope to touch on all of those things with John. Albert is monitoring that situation with getting him a link that's workable, and all should be good. By the way, if I say DiFi to you, you know who I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you live in the Bay Area, you know who DiFi is.
What?
If you live in California, you know who DiFi is, right? There's nothing, if you see DiFi in a headline, you'd know who that is. Am I right about that? I'm asking.
Did someone
Yeah,
ask?
I feel like, well, I'm biased. I'm here in California, so obviously I know who DiFi is.
Right, right. And if you follow politics casually, wouldn't you say well, maybe casually you might not know, but in California, you'd certainly know DiFi, right?
You hug and kiss casually.
All I'm saying is I got into an argument this morning about that. Yeah.
I do hug and kiss people casually.
The argument was I wanted to put in the headline for today's show, DiFi in or out. And I'll get to that in a minute. Yeah. Because DiFi is denying her own resignation statement coming from her office. I'll get to that story in a minute. But, yeah, I mean,
he was high and drunk.
Well, she is claiming that she should have been told. Anyway.
Well, wait a minute.
It might have been one. Senator, we did tell you 4 seconds ago, but the deal is we had an argument over the headline because it was argued by my headline person that no one knows who DiFi is.
No.
I said, everybody knows who DiFi is.
Right.
I said, anyone who follows politics, and most of my audience does follow politics casually or whatever. I'm not saying this is a political show, but I'm just saying that, we're in and out. We talk about California stuff.
Yeah.
They know who DiFi is. And then he said, well, I follow politics and I don't know who DiFi is. And I'm thinking, dude, that's a bad brag right now. Okay. You don't realize how bad a brag that is. But there are a lot of abbreviations and stuff that I probably don't know. So we went around and around on it. And then he showed me a Google search and a screenshot of DiFi. He said, look, I searched for DiFi on Google and I couldn't find it.
What?
So then I do my own Google search, excuse me, under news. And it's everywhere, of course.
They do this to me all the time. I don't know what the hell they do it for.
Politico has a thing. Who's going to replace DiFi? DiFi out. Who's going to take her seat? Already circling for DiFi's seat. Blah, 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 blah. Of course, it's everywhere. Yeah. Then I send that to him. Then he sends to me, well, you did a news search. That's almost cheating, he said. Well, what? Dude, we do a news show, okay? I mean, we do a lot of stuff on the show, but news does drive a lot of the content on the show.
Yeah.
So finally, I got him to reluctantly agree to DiFi. And that's how we end up with our headline for today, DiFi. So among the things...
That's really frustrating because DiFi is, I mean... She's been around a long time. That's not new.
Yeah. Someone is saying, is my internet unstable or something? Is my signal unstable?
Your camera is a little pixelated here and there.
Oh my God, dude.
It's not like a clear shot.
I cannot take this today, baby.
It's all right because we can hear you and it's we can see the point.
That is it's so bogus. Well, let me. Are there issues? Do you want to? Should we break the glass and pull the lever and ask Tony to come join us?
Yeah,
Albert?
maybe you could just try to restart your internet, maybe, and then me and Kim could fill for you.
Oh, it is that bad? Wow, that's just awful.
You're coming in fine, but yeah, the camera is looking like one of those. You know, when you're one of those Zoom calls and one of them is kind of like lagging behind.
But the sound is okay. Yeah.
Oh, what is the answer then to this? I should. You think I should do what? Steve Jobs. What do you think I should do here? I should jump out.
I'm more of a Steve Wozniak, but yeah, you could probably just reconnect, and then we'll see what happens if it's.
Okay, Kim, will you tell the audience, if you would, please, about the last 2 days, the celebration?
Oh, I will.
Big party that was your 9-year-old's party, and I will return in a moment.
I'd like to talk to Albert about setting the bar too high. So you
go
do what you do, and we'll have this
I'll be right back.
Yeah.
Okay.
So here I am in Monterey looking at the waves crashing into the shore, and I'm listening to the Mark Thompson show, and I hear Albert say, I'm setting the bar too high. What do you mean I'm setting the bar too high? All right, no, I understand what you're saying. Yes, it's a 9-year-old's birthday, a little family gathering.
I mean, no, I'm saying it with not that you're going too far with it. I'm just saying that it's gonna be you're making it hard on yourself. For the future birthdays. It's like, well, I remember my 9th birthday, and that was really cool. And I don't know if you could follow that up, Mom, to be honest. But...
Okay, so let me tell you that I have a little bit of guilt because of COVID. Their birthday parties have been non-existent for the last few years. I think they've been very distant.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. So there haven't been very many kid birthday parties. Family birthday parties have been outside. It's just been a whole different thing. So I think and this wasn't a kid birthday party and was kind of an excuse just to take a little jaunt. We got a sale email from this really fancy hotel that they would give us, I think it was like 40% off or something. So we went. But I hear what you're saying, although I think you have to approach it differently after COVID, because I think parents are trying to kind of make up for a lost time a little bit.
Yeah, cover that ground that you missed during the pandemic, and I think everything's really changed. And so you spent 2 days, and you had what I see some of the chat they're asking, did you go to the aquarium? What did you do?
Yeah. We went to the Monterey Bay Aquarium, had birthday dinner at Benihana, went to the beach, and the giant artichoke in Castroville on the way home. Not that big of a thing, just a little. And we were there for the weekend too. So yeah.
Also, it was nice little escape.
It was a nice little escape, and I think people are looking for that after COVID, after being kind of locked in for a while, looking to celebrate the little things that we didn't really get to celebrate before. I don't know. Maybe it's just
was the artichoke a little overrated? Is that the first time you went to go visit the giant artichoke?
So I went. It's so funny, when you see things when you're little and they just look enormous, and then you go as an adult and you're like, that doesn't look as big as I thought it was. I had this in my mind of this artichoke that was, 60 feet tall, just towering. And you get there and it's maybe a little lower than the roof of the building. It's not that tall.
Nothing.
And the area around it.
That's real.
looks pretty sketchy, and I thought I'm not gonna leave all this stuff because I packed all the computers for the show just in case I needed to pop on. Um, and wasn't gonna leave all that in the car in this area. I thought, I don't know if I'm gonna walk away from my car right here.
Am I far, am I far enough from the Bay Area for this to be fine?
We didn't eat there. We just walked away. But I got some great pictures of Jacob and the artichoke. So,
I have a question because I
Yes.
worked closely with you and Brett
Yeah.
at KGO, and one of the things I had some trouble doing as a producer was always looking at headlines and always kind of like we're off the clock, but you're always on the clock. When you're actually
Always.
going on trips, do you actually not pay attention to the news, and then when you get back, you kind of catch up with everything, or were you keeping your eye on
I'm paying attention. But because I'm kind of a news hound anyway, I'm that person that kind of wants to know. And if you don't pay attention for a couple days, you've got some catching up to do. There have been vacations I've taken where I've mentally checked out. I haven't
cold turkey on the news, just
Yep,
nothing.
turn the phone off. You're out. You're doing it. But for the most part, I keep up with the headlines and and read the stories. So it wasn't that kind of a mental break. But there were some moments where you stare out at the sea and you feel that crisp ocean air on your face and you just feel joy. There were a lot of moments. Albert, multiple times a day. Pods, and I didn't know they carried on in groups. Pods of seals leaping out of the water all the way across the Monterey Bay. It's just really beautiful.
Wow. And
Unfortunately, I've always wanted to go on a whale watching trip there, but unfortunately, every time we go, nobody else wants to go with me. So
maybe when your kids get a little older. They'll be more,
then they really won't want to go with you.
No, they won't.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah. What
Mark, you're looking a lot better, Mark. I don't know what you did.
I don't know. I'm utterly disgusted now. I started the show disgusted. Now I'm even more disgusted than I was. It's very hard to do what we do. We took this whole radio station. We took this crew over. We have to crowdfund constantly so that we can meet payroll and make sure that everything gets done. We had to buy a bunch of equipment and all this other junk. We've got, things I have to worry about, like headlines I was telling you about and stuff. And then when the fundamental technology lets you down, it's infuriating. So
it's just a venue change. We were at the Fairmont. Now we're at the Days Inn in the conference room. It's all right. It's all right.
Very well put. Very well put.
As long as it's complimentary breakfast, it's all for me.
Right.
Okay. As long as there's
We're the Days Inn of news broadcast. Thank you very, very much. That's a lovely.
What the hell is going on in the United States of America?
Right on, Ron Owens. You get it. Jeez. I talked to Ron Owens, by the way. He had a couple of bouts with some health stuff, but I think he's on the mend, which is kind of cool. So that's good. So I feel bad. I kind of missed the big update about the 2-day adventure at Monterey Bay. But I guess I'll catch it on the rebroadcast.
Ocean seals, good times.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I'm excited.
My bad. I'm sorry.
Yeah, exactly. What can I do? The whale watching adventure, you love that. I'm getting that.
They never let me go. Nobody else wants to go. I would have to go by myself.
Maybe we could just record a live Mark Thompson while on like one of those kayaking boats on the whale watching tours.
There you go.
It would be cool for you to maybe do some content from out there. We're going to start doing some additional content, so that might fall into that category. You could,
I think Red Jacks is a must for the first time. Like it's our first remote broadcast. Maybe we get the Red Jacks.
Yeah, the Red Jack Saloon.
Yeah,
Bay and Stockton Streets in
Mark Thompson
San Francisco.
Drink-a-thon. That's what I'm thinking.
Well, the martini is a popular drink, and a portion of the martini revenues go to supporting the show. But also, Nikki has Nikki does a fine show. She has a drink as well there. I think it's the Nikki Mule or something, Maduro Mule.
Maduro Mule, yeah. The martini and the Maduro Mule.
Is the signal still good? You'll tell me if it starts to waver.
You look good.
Okay,
all
fine.
Is well.
So the other thing I wanted to mention was Valentine's Day. I don't know if you did something special, Kim. Was there it was sort of the end of your 2-day adventure, so probably the specialness was just in the 2-day adventure. That's my guess.
So I usually get my kids, they wake up in the morning and I have a little Valentine's box full of some things, just a couple things.
Oh, that's
and
cute.
I didn't bring it to Monterey because I thought, well, it's a lot more, lugging Valentine's presents through the lobby. So I said, well, when we get home, I'll give it to you. So we get home and it's like late last night. And the first thing they walk through the door and they're like, where's our Valentine's? And my husband said, listen, you just got
what have you done for me lately?
Worth of stuff and fun. And now you walk in with your hand out for more.
You get nothing.
Exactly.
So they got their Valentine's this morning.
Wow. Yeah. It's a very, it's tough with kids. You want to give them the best of everything. But you also know that if they get used to the best of everything, they sometimes can get spoiled.
Yeah, Kim, are they still doing the Valentine's card thing at schools these days?
They are, but now it's changes every year. So, you know how people used to attach a little candy?
Oh, right.
Like a little sucker, a little Hershey's
the little or the hearts.
Card.
Yeah.
Right. Now they say we don't want any candy, no sugar at school.
They're just cards with names on it.
Right, but you don't put the names on it. You just sign from yourself so that you can walk through the 25 bags. And so it's not like my Valentine would just be a pencil and a little card, and it would say "Love Kim." That's it.
Yeah.
Not to Albert, not to Mark, just from Kim.
Oh, maybe I was doing it wrong this whole time. I was personalizing for my whole class, and this time of year was my least favorite. I was like, well, I have to do this. I don't want to do this, but everyone else is doing it, so I got to put their names on it.
So people were then not allowed to put the sugar on, so they would put like a little toy, little pencil, little some type of eraser, whatever. Now no toys, so now it's just a little card. It's all right. I mean, it's still fun.
It's changing. It's the evolving face of Valentine's Day in the schools in America. It's all now against a backdrop of a changing culture, changing society. When we come back, I want to talk about Senator Dianne Feinstein. I know her as DiFi. And the fact that she is denying the statement that she will not seek re-election that came from her own office. We'll get to that next. Smash the like button like a boss. Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
How about something for Steve Moskowitz, everybody? Come on. He is our founding sponsor. He's still with us. He's hanging on, just hanging on by his fingers because he wants to get the word out. And I love that you are getting the word out. More and more people I speak to are aware of a lot of the programs that we were talking about on KGO, that we were talking about in the early days of this show. We still are kind of in the early days, but and I'm speaking of ERC, these sorts of pots of gold that you can find, but you have to sometimes really have some skills to find them. When the government programs kick in, they do offer taxpayers opportunities.
Absolutely, Mark. And that's such a big deal about the ERC because the government's giving away, it's not a loan, they're giving away up to $26,000 for every employee that you had in 2020 and 2021 if you qualify. There's two ways to qualify. There's the easy way, and it's funny. Yesterday I had one of the easy ones. It was so quick and easy. Okay, boom, you qualified, that's it. And that's what a lot of the firms are geared up for, the easy ones. But if you didn't have that drop in gross revenue, a terrible disservice a lot of these firms are doing is saying, oh, that's it, no ERC for you, goodbye. And also a lot of CPAs never got interested in it because it's a one-time program. They're like tax returns, it's every year. So the bottom, and you're welcome, Maud, and the bottom line is that so many people are missing out because they're told they don't qualify. If you were told you don't qualify because your gross revenue didn't go down enough, there's another procedure. And it's more work. It's a lot more work. Sometimes we have to meet with clients for multiple times, get homework. For example, yesterday I took one that was turned down for the gross revenue. and there's 4 possible periods. We qualify him for 2. We had our 3rd meeting yesterday, and we're going to have a 4th meeting to see if we can qualify him for the other 2 periods. The other firms don't want to get into that kind of work. We're willing to do it because there's so much money involved for the client. And also, I've had a few people that say, oh, they didn't want the money because they might get audited. And my response to that is, so what? If you haven't done anything wrong, it's just like a police officer wanting to see your driver's license or deducting your mortgage interest on your tax return. At some point, somebody wants to see something. So what? My whole career on TV and radio, I've always said, you should take everything to which you're legally entitled, no more and no less. Plain and simple. And the bottom line, just like a great president said, there's nothing to fear but fear itself.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. If you have a business that employed people in 2020 and 2021, you should really contact us and see if you qualify. Because if you do, this could be life-changing, the amount of money they're giving away to some businesses.
It affected all of us. The COVID shutdowns affected all of us. And even if you have a small business, this is what I've learned through our conversations. There are ways to interpret what happened to you. You may not even feel as though, well, it only sort of marginally affected me. Let Steve decide how much it affected you. Marginally may be a lot of money. So it's there, and Steve can help you find it. 888-TAX-DEAL, 888-TAX-DEAL. We talked in other conversations, maybe we'll get into it next hour, about setting up a business, setting up a side hustle in these times in which you need multiple revenue streams.
Or turning a business around that's essentially a good business, but you're having problems. Because some people are great at baking apple pies, but they don't know the business aspect. I will admit, I don't know how to bake an apple pie, but I can buy one if I want it. And that's what we have here. And so many people are in the business of buying up failing businesses. They know what to do. The business aspects, they turn around, they make a lot of profit. That's something else we can do for you.
Steve Moskowitz is 888-TAX-DEAL, 888-TAX-DEAL. You can also reach him online. You can pop him an email through the online emails. There's a thing that contact us kind of spot on the website, and that's at MoskowitzLLP.com. You can see it all scrolling on the screen. 888-TAX-DEAL or at MoskowitzLLP.com, MoskowItz, MoskowitzLLP.com. Steve, let's talk next hour. Thank you for being part of the show.
Thanks, Mark.
Steve Moskowitz,
Thanks,
everybody. Yeah. Right on.
The Mark Thompson Show.
I must tell you that I was surprised as anyone to see this news out of DiFi's office. First, I should say this. I wasn't at all surprised to see the announcement that she wasn't going to run for re-election, right? And yeah, shout out for a super sticker. Was that what that was? Walter from the islands. I got $10 on the payroll. Aloha, baby. Yeah.
Girl, you just woo.
Girl, you just woo. Thank you. Give you the Chappelle. Thank you. I'll also give you a big shout out for being, I think, the first.
Big shout out.
Yeah, the first contribution of the day. Thank you. I wasn't surprised, nor I'm sure were any of you, that DiFi's office issued the statement that she wasn't going to be seeking re-election. My God, she's, she'll be in her 90s if she were to win re-election.
Yeah.
And so it was breaking news in a sense, but not unanticipated news, that her office put out that statement that she wouldn't be seeking re-election in 2024.
Well, you kind of knew it because you have all these people that normally wouldn't coming forward and saying, I'm going to run. So
right,
that's kind of like this waiting game, right?
Kim's right.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw Katie Porter, we saw Adam Schiff, we saw Barbara Lee, all of these people, and all of them respected. I mean, you wouldn't do badly to have any of them in that seat. But they were all announcing prior to this announcement, which just came yesterday. So the other thing is, she will be 90, I think, this year. And so, it's kind of like she's sort of aging out, you figure. Even though, as you know, I have mad respect for people well into their 80s and 90s. I mean, I think you can be clear thinking and productive well through those decades now. Anyway, here's the weird part. The statement is put out that she won't seek re-election. And now she's saying that she's not made that decision. Quote, I haven't released anything, she said yesterday afternoon.
What?
Yeah. Her staffer said that the statement had been released, to which she responded, quote, you put out a statement? I should have known they put it out. I'll remind you, she said, I'm announcing today I will not run for re-election in 2024, but intend to accomplish as much for California as I can through the end of next year when my term ends. That was important because, remember, if she were to push away early, then Newsom would assign someone that seat, right? But that's not what's going to happen. She's going to remain in office. I just think she reflects, even in that contradictory statement, the confusion and, frankly, the degraded way that she has sat in that office and essentially handled the work of a U.S. senator. And I know that John Rothman will probably disagree, but I think a lot of the stuff that's being done by Dianne Feinstein's office is being done by her staffers. I think that's indisputable. Look at this announcement. It's an open discussion that Feinstein's lost some cognitive sharpness, and that's a polite way to put it. But to me, the high-profile position that she's in on the Judiciary Committee, for example, and the way in which I think she's made some major missteps. I can think of one offhand, the one with Lindsey Graham. You remember how they shoved the appointment of Amy Coney Barrett, that nomination and confirmation, down our throats in the last days of the Trump administration. Amy Coney Barrett was interviewed through the confirmation process, and Dianne Feinstein was on that panel. She hugged Lindsey Graham and thanked him publicly for that entire hearing. Yeah. It was, I thought, shameful, embarrassing. And for that and other reasons, she should have stepped away some time ago. And as I say, we've just named 3 very capable people who could have taken her place in Barbara Lee Schiff and Katie Porter.
She's not the oldest person to have served in the Senate. I think Strom Thurmond takes that.
Strom Thurmond is a crazy story, and I'll let historian John Rothman tell maybe a little bit of it, because he was, in his personal life, I feel like Strom Thurmond had a bunch of stuff going. Wasn't he married to somebody way younger, as I recall? I mean, like way younger.
Google it.
I think that's right. And so he was certainly vibrant in his personal life, apparently. But I'll let Rothman handle a lot of that. We're a little late, so we'll get to some Rothman and Kim's news. John Rothman will talk DiFi. I'm sure he'll take me on a couple of things I've said, and I also want to get to Ukraine and China, as our policies and shifting news place us in a more difficult position with regard to both of those countries. So smash the like button like a boss. Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Oh, you've missed that over-the-top intro, haven't you?
I did.
Yes.
I missed it.
Oh, yeah.
I also have, I'm out of practice. Don't have my pictures. I go,
Oh, my goodness.
I'll get back into the swing of it.
Do what you can. Yeah, exactly.
I'll do it. This is the Mark Thompson Show, and I'm Kim McAllister, and this report is sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz. For more than 30 years, Steve has put his tax knowledge to work for individuals and businesses. You can reach Steve at 888-TAX-STEAL or at moskowitzllp.com. Some mixed messages surrounding the toxic train derailment in Ohio. The EPA administrator, Michael Reagan, said he'd feel comfortable bathing and drinking the water in some areas of East Palestine after EPA testing. Governor Mike DeWine said he would only drink bottled water if he lived in that area. So what are you going to do? To drink it or not to drink it? The man who lost his mother in last year's Buffalo mass shooting says he wants the killer to suffer for the rest of his life. That's what Wayne Jones Jr. said at a hearing before the defendant was officially sentenced to life in prison. The shooter pleaded guilty for the massacre in May that left 10 Black people dead. Republicans pushing a bill that would ban Chinese citizens and companies from buying any land in Texas. Governor Greg Abbott has come out in full support of this bill, coming after a Chinese spy balloon recently flew over the United States. Authorities in Arizona ordering residents living within 3 miles of a toxic chemical spill to now shelter in place. The tanker was carrying nitric acid and overturned in Tucson, killing the driver in the process. That acid, highly corrosive, it can be deadly if inhaled. A judge is turning down an offer from former President Donald Trump to provide a DNA sample in his E. Jean Carroll case. The writer accusing Trump of raping her in a New York City dressing room in the 1990s. The judge said the offer coming way too late in this case. And the Massachusetts highest court says a man cannot avoid being convicted of murdering a woman who tells him she was unfaithful. The Supreme Judicial Court ruling coming in the case of a man who killed his pregnant wife in 2009 after she confessed the baby wasn't his. The suspect in the case tried to have his first-degree murder conviction reduced to manslaughter because of his girlfriend's infidelity. Yeah, that's not going to work. Again, this report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz. For more than 30 years, Steve has put his tax knowledge to work for individuals, for businesses, whatever you got, Steve can help you out. You can reach him at 888-TAX-DEAL or online at moskowitzllp.com. I'm Kim McAllister on The Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Why are you yelling?
That's not fake. That's real.
It's fantastic.
Who's Mark Thompson?
Hey, which one of you is Mark Thompson?
Back, and we are so excited to have you here. We're excited to have Kim back. We're at full strength. Albert in the house as well. Do they still say that, Albert, in the house? Or is that did that go out with Arsenio? Don't they
I
say
think it might have went out, but I think it's cool to bring it back, Mark. So maybe we can bring it
Albert,
back.
thank you.
Okay. Albert's in the house. Kim's here.
Kim, how are you?
And I want a big Mark Thompson Show welcome for a guy who is the sexiest political analyst on the planet, John Rothman, everybody. Come on. He's a lecturer.
Maybe we could just raise the roof for John if we're going to throw back.
Oh, as long as we're bringing back
older,
stuff. Yes, let's raise the
roof
roof.
for John Rothman.
Smash the like button for John Rothman.
It with your iron rod.
So, John, it is great to have you in our mix always.
My pleasure.
I want to ask you first about this Dianne Feinstein announcement. As I was saying before, not unexpected. I thought it's awkward, to say the least, that she is saying, I didn't know anything about this. I mean, it really speaks to what, I'm sorry, John, is just not the Dianne Feinstein that you knew before. Let's be honest.
That's correct. And I made the observation yesterday on another network where I asked to comment that it was a confusing announcement. You know, she stood up in the caucus and announced she wasn't running. The staff put out the statement, and then she evidently didn't realize it had been put out or was confused about it. But she did announce she's going to continue to serve until her term is over. And so the race for her seat will intensify.
You know, this is an interesting point that Vilma's making. If a senator has lost cognitive abilities, he or she should have to step down. He or she is not representing their constituents. The problem with that, I think, John, I'm wondering if you agree with me, is that it's hard to prove, you know, quote, prove, or another way, demonstrate, might be another word, that someone's cognitive abilities have reached some threshold by which they are no longer able to serve their constituents.
Yeah, look, there is no provision. I always remember another California senator. His name was Claire Engel. He was elected in 1958, overwhelmingly. And in 1963, he had a massive stroke. He continued to serve. And in 1964, when the Civil Rights Bill came up before the United States Senate, Claire Engel was wheeled in to the Senate chamber. He couldn't speak. So when the time came for him to vote, he went like this. He pointed to
wow.
and it was counted. Now, he died shortly thereafter, and was succeeded by Pierre Salinger, who was appointed by Pat Brown and who was defeated in the election of 1964 by George Murphy.
But that's a great story. But
doesn't that pointing to the eyes show that he had the cognitive ability to make the connection, that there was something there that he could still think and vote?
He may have, he may not have. I couldn't tell you. But the point was, there's no way to remove a sitting senator unless that senator resigns or dies or is expelled. And we had examples of that during the Civil War when members of the Senate were expelled. Very unusual, very unlikely to happen. Dianne Feinstein has a very capable staff, as Mark pointed out. They have really been responsive on the district level, that is her district offices here in California. And I expect she'll serve her term and is now going to be applauded by one and all for a stellar record. Remember, this is a person who has served almost a third of a century in the United States Senate. The woman who was defeated when she ran for governor of California, was twice defeated when she ran for mayor of San Francisco, came back from everything in order to become a successful mayor, succeeding when George Moscone was assassinated, and who has served 10 years in the United States as mayor of San Francisco, and almost 32 years it'll be when she retires as a United States senator. And you judge her not by the end, but I think by her full record.
A quick question for two dudes, you two. Does it seem at all like Dianne Feinstein is being called out for her age and maybe her memory as well, when you've got other senators in the past, all male, who have been older than her, who may have been more questionably suited than Dianne Feinstein? Is this like you're old and you're a woman? What about Robert Byrd? He's 92, right? What about Chuck Grassley? Daniel Inouye was pretty old. He was 88, almost 89 when he was. So I guess my question is, do you feel like there's some type of sexism involved?
No, I don't. I think all of the ones you've mentioned were sharp until the very end. Dianne Feinstein has not held a press conference nor spoken publicly in at least a year. So I can only say her ability to function is legitimately questioned. It has nothing to do with the fact that she's a woman. If her mind were clear and she could do public appearances, she would have retired in a very different way.
I second what Brother Rothman has just said, and I would also mention that she is a senior senator. I mean, she's someone who has roles as leadership within the Senate. So the demands on her are not those of a junior senator. They're those of a senior senator, and it's time to push away. But she clearly is pushing away. The one thing I would say, and I want to move on, John, but I would ask you this one thing that relates to Dianne Feinstein before we move on. It's the decision to serve out the term. Can you help us understand the calculus that goes into that decision? I mean, if she is as diminished as we know she really is, why not push away now, let Newsom appoint? What is the strategy or the thinking that goes into making that part of the decision?
Hey, first of all, I talked with one of her closest aides last week, and I asked him, he had just spoken to her. He said, John, she's fully able to perform her functions, but she's clearly diminished. That was his comment to me. But there was no suggestion that she was in any way mentally incapacitated. I think she has short-term memory problems. But okay, at least that's what I was told by an anonymous source, but somebody who knows. She, I think, is determined to hang on. I've known a lot of people who are older who simply don't want to give up. But let me point out to you pointed out the seniority. Her seniority in the United States Senate, the benefit for California is quite remarkable. And there will now be a robust campaign. I would give the edge to Adam Schiff, who has now been endorsed by Nancy Pelosi, who has $20 million in the bank. Katie Porter, I don't think will raise that kind of money nor have that kind of influence. And Barbara Lee, I don't see as a formidable contender. So I expect Adam Schiff to win the nomination and to be elected to the United States Senate. Remember, in California, you don't have a race between a Republican and a Democrat. You have a race between the two top vote getters. So it could well be Adam Schiff and one of the others that I've mentioned.
Yeah, it's certainly the case that Adam Schiff will likely be I'm going to say, institutional choice. He'll have, I think, a lot of the Democratic Party and party money behind him. I think Katie Porter might really be something of a more, I don't want to say more populist, but, she has a populist image, John, and she might actually be able to put together a sizable coalition as well.
She was barely reelected. I don't think.
Well, she's barely reelected in a red county.
Barely reelected. I point that out. If I were Katie Porter and I realized that I might not win in 2 years running for the United States Senate makes a lot of sense.
Okay. All right. Well, that's the political calculus. There you go from John Rothman. John, now I want to move on to where we are with China. These balloons and general disposition toward China, it's an odd relationship we have, right, John? We're their best customer. They're a critical part of our supply chain. We have an economic relationship with them that's sort of like Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers, and yet we are on what you could say is increasingly hostile, tense footing with them.
We have real tensions. Remember what's going on the South China Sea. China is building islands. Essentially, they're still threatening to take Taiwan, and they're talking about an invasion of Taiwan. So you're right, but that is the balance which needs to be struck. I listened this morning to Nikki Haley's announcement as a candidate for president of the United States, and she leveled a firm blast at China. Well, my answer is really we have to live in a world with China. I always remember my old boss, Richard Nixon, and the term he used, détente, in relation to the Soviet Union, which was certainly at the height of its power during the Nixon years. We have a détente with China. That is to say, we're going to disagree on foreign policy. We're going to compete in the world. But when it comes to trade, we're there. And let me just point out to you, nobody envisioned when Nixon went to China that China would become the supplier that we depended on. We thought we were opening up the Chinese market and we would make a fortune by selling to the Chinese. And it turned out the other way, and there's a good reason for it. Their costs in terms of production of goods and services is much cheaper. They don't have a labor union in China. So the whole question of our infrastructure, the one thing I can tell you that Joe Biden said that resonated with me is we have to be less dependent. And I think that is something which will cost us more money because it does cost more to produce products in the United States.
Well, this is something that gets to a general philosophy that I really subscribe to, and that is there are a lot of things about life and our culture that may be, and the society, when I say life, that may be more expensive. To live sustainably is more expensive. It's cheaper just to throw crap away, make it out of plastic, and just fill up landfills. But then eventually you choke yourself off, your world is toxified, and everybody dies. So it's more expensive. Bless you, John Rothman.
Nothing to sneeze at, Mark.
Yeah, thank you. Well done. That's why he's a professional. Go ahead. Yes.
Let me just indicate to you, the American people are going to spend more money, have greater expenses in the days ahead. There's no question about it. We are going to have real competition with China. We're going to have to deal with that as well. Question of whether they spied on us, the answer is, of course they did. We spy on them. The fact is that they used a balloon. Thank God Joe Biden had the good sense not to shoot it down when it was over Montana. He waited till it was out at sea. We've recovered most of it. The damage to American security evidently was minimal because certain blocking devices were used in order to prevent that balloon from sending messages. But the extreme statements by many Republicans denouncing Joe Biden, saying, oh, we would have shot it down immediately, then they wouldn't have followed the advice of the American military. The American military was very, very clear about the fact that we should not shoot it down over the continental United States. And in fact, the fact that it went down at sea made its recovery, more likely. Now, the other balloons or whatever objects they are that have been out there, no one has yet implied or proved that they were of Chinese origin or that they were spy materials. So I was very interested, by the way, when Mitt Romney came out of the hearing and he said the military did the right thing. And you will note that the Republicans, when they came out of their briefing, all 100 members of the United States Senate were briefed. They were no longer blasting the fact that the balloon was not shot down, because then they would have had to attack America's military. And I don't think the Republicans are up for that right now.
Right. And that's the politics of it. It's a fact that we pay attention to this balloon thing. And I'm not saying it's not a big deal, but we pay attention to it because we can see it. And apparently there were 3 of these things during the Trump administration. They were never shot down. They just floated through,
which Trump claims he had no knowledge of. And several of his key advisors, including Mike Pompeo, the Secretary of State, who plans to run for president, said he didn't have any knowledge of it. So, you're right. They're playing politics with it now. If I may, though, I'm less concerned about the Chinese situation than I am about what's happening in Ukraine right now. We have a major crisis taking place. Spring is coming. The Russians are going to mount a huge offensive. There's no question that they are going to use missiles and high technology, that they are determined to win this thing. Putin has put himself in that position. There is a lot of speculation in Eastern Europe that the Russians, if they succeed, will next take aim at Poland. And that's why President Biden is going to Poland, his second trip to Poland this year. We better keep our eyes on where the real danger is. We face an economic danger from China. At this point, not a military one, but from Russia, there is a potential military danger which needs to be addressed. And remember, we walk a delicate tightrope because the last thing we want is a nuclear confrontation. And let me point out that the former president of Russia, one of Putin's closest advisors, Mr. Medvedev, says that nuclear exchanges are possible. And that scares the living bejeebers out of me.
Of course. I mean, this is the thing that I think is so very, very dangerous and just moves this to another level. But when you talk about Poland, you are pretty much then forced into a military conflict. Right now, it's a proxy war, I think you'd concede.
It is very much like the Spanish Civil War in 1930s, which pitted 2 powers against each other. This is a proxy war from our point of view, not from the Russians' point of view. The Russians are engaged directly. But we, and when I say we, I don't just mean the United States, I mean NATO as well, are deeply engaged. And this is a very, my friends in Europe are scared because they don't see an outcome which is positive in any way.
Well, the other thing that is scary is the announcement from the U.S. saying, and other NATO countries saying, get out of Russia. They're saying, everybody who's an American, get out of Russia now. That clarion call, I think, does reflect another level of conflict, sort of what you're talking about, where on the 1-year anniversary of this entire thing, we end up in an escalation period, probably. That could be very, very scary.
Yeah, and that's the point. So Russia and China are the 2 major foreign policy tasks, and there is a third element, and that is that if you've been following the United Nations reports, Iran is developing a nuclear weapon, and they are on the verge of having the ability to, have one. And so the question becomes, what are we, that is collectively, going to do about that? So whoever the next president of the United States is, whether it's Joe Biden or someone else, foreign policy is going to be at the top of the list. I'm not going to get into the question, although you mentioned, I think when we talked about Dianne Feinstein, or maybe we didn't, but we should have, this question about the continued gun violence in this country. And it was very interesting for me after this tragedy in Michigan, that again, there were calls for some sort of gun control. And again, the Republicans dismissed it out of hand. And given the deadlock in the Congress, with the House controlled by the Republicans and the Democrats controlling the Senate, nothing is going to happen. And let me indicate, we have another big story that I think is going to emerge this week. We were told before Friday, and that comes out of Georgia. And that is that the attorney general there, the district attorney rather there, is going to they're not filing charges. I want to be very clear about this. What they're doing is they're issuing the first part and the end conclusions of their report without the middle, which we are told may lead to ultimately an indictment on a state level of Donald Trump. And I'm going to watch very carefully in the next several days as that portions of the report, the beginning and the end, are released to see what the general thrust is. So I think people have to be alert to that. I was asked this morning by another commentator who spoke with me about what I thought of Nikki Haley's candidacy. She is not formidable, but she's running for vice president. That's what she's really running for. The Republicans will have to put a woman on the ticket if the nominee is a man. And Nikki Haley makes the most sense. 2-term governor of South Carolina, 2 years as ambassador to the United Nations, and she is to the right of the Republican Party. She has a real problem because she has to be able to negotiate or navigate the Trump waters. And that's going to be a very, very tough thing for her to do. Remember, this is the only cabinet officer in the Trump administration who left voluntarily, who was not fired, and about whom Trump has had nothing negative to say. So that's also going to be an interesting dimension.
Didn't Barr resign? I thought he resigned also.
Yes,
am I wrong about that?
But I'm talking about someone who resigned without any controversy.
Without controversy, okay.
No,
well, that really narrows the field in the case of the Trump crew.
Clarifying that for me. Now you know why it's the Mark Thompson program.
No, but I agree with you about Nikki Haley. We did a big thing about her yesterday. We ran a little bit of her campaign spot, and you can really get sucked into this. Indian descent. She's a woman. She really plays that. Look. Just as I've said about so many who are sort of the enemy of my enemy is my friend kind of Republicans, Liz Cheney's of the world. I get it. Great that they're speaking out against Trump. Great that Nikki Haley pushed away from the table. She's against a woman's right to choose. She got an A+ rating from the NRA. Do not be in any way deceived. She is not a soft GOP candidate. She is hard right.
Hard right, no question about it. But all of the potential candidates, with the exception of Liz Cheney, although on issues she is hard right. Let's be very clear about that. The Republican Party doesn't have a middle. I always like to cite the example, being a liberal Republican is a little bit like being a high church Unitarian. It's possible, but pointless. And I think that's where the Republican Party is today.
Smash the like button for our brother.
Yeah, with your iron rod.
He is a sexy fool. I want to see, is there anything I want to get to John Rothman here before he says goodbye, Albert? Is there anything?
Wait, before you say goodbye.
Yes, sir.
I have to say a word to Kim McAllister. I'm glad she's back from vacation. Her son is about to celebrate his birthday, and I want you to wish him a very happy birthday.
Thank you. I'll do that. Thank you.
Just wanted to throw that in.
Is your son aware of John Rothman? I mean, will that mean anything to him? He is?
Yes, John Rothman plays a big role in the lives of my children.
I see. Do you want to expand on that? Or is,
they're all huge fans. He's every time I would bring them into Station X, he would be incredibly kind to them. Actually hosted my daughter on the air and let her take some phone calls one time with
wow. So that really is yes.
And that's when the ratings went through the roof. I want you to know.
That's what happened. So he's
maybe they should have left the kids on the air. That would have been who knows.
Thank you.
Some would suggest that was what KGO did. They left us kids on the air.
Yes, they did. Well, this is look at this. This is from Virage. John Rothman is brilliant in his analysis. Wow. I don't know if I'd say brilliant. I mean, I think he's good.
Why don't you, my wife, when you say that, she may not let me participate again.
I mean, he's okay. I like to get him on, but I'm brilliant. Oh, geez.
So we have a lot to watch this week, and I
yes,
really
we do, John.
Keep your eye on Georgia. Keep your eye on. Oh, I didn't mention Mike Pence. May I just quickly? Do I have?
Well, he's pushing back on that subpoena, isn't he, John?
Let me just say. You're either a member of the executive branch or you're not. The vice president may be president of the Senate. He is not or she is not a member of the legislative branch. Take a look at the Constitution and you'll see that the free speech clause relates to senators and representatives. It does not relate to vice presidents who preside over the Senate but are not members of the Senate. And I point that out. He's definitely going to lose that battle and will then be compelled, I believe, to testify. So that's another very interesting thing. And as we talk about potential candidates for president, we can't leave Mike Pence out. He may not be registering in high numbers. Actually, he's in single digits, but he is going to run and he is going to base his campaign in large measure on the evangelicals of America. He's very popular and he intends to score big on that. You may know that Mike Pence just came out in favor of abandoning even the abortion pill, as it's called. This is a guy who is going to face a lot of heat, and I'm sure he's going to get it from Donald Trump. I'm waiting to see what Trump has to say about Nikki Haley. He blasts everyone. So far, he hasn't blasted her. Be interesting to see what nickname he comes up with. But anyway, I had to throw those things in. Mark, I hope you don't mind taking advantage of your splendid generosity and allowing me to be here.
I love that you're on. The audience loves you. In truth, I'm just exploiting you for my own gain, which I like doing weekly. Love hearing from John Rothman, says Ren, and everybody loves your take. So, John, thank you. Let's talk next week, and really all the best, my friend. Love seeing you.
With pleasure. Okay. And Kim, have a wonderful birthday celebration.
Wow.
I want to hear all about it.
Thanks, John Rothman, everybody. Come on.
Mark Thompson Show.
Wow. John Rothman gets a lot of love today. I mean, it was, I'm a little bit put off. I like to have a little love for myself.
Quite a few donations during that segment. We might just need to maybe just show John's face throughout the show, throughout the week. Yeah. He's not even talking.
Big shout out.
Yeah, where's my big shout? Let's get some acknowledgments going. And then we got Kim's news. Is that how you want to do it, Albert? Or you want to do it on the other side? How do you want to do it,
Let's do
Albert?
it on the other side, and we'll start the hour with the shout outs, and then maybe get a couple more, and then we'll have a great second hour.
I'm loving it. Thanks again to John Rothman. Thank you all for being here. Our big Wednesday show, Mark Thompson Show.
I've told you it's never easy being in this business.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister. This report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz at 888 Tax Deal. A horrible situation and story out of Michigan, of course. Michigan State University set to hold a candlelight vigil today after this week's deadly mass shooting on their campus. It'll be held at a popular on-campus landmark known as The Rock to honor the victims and support the community. Mental health resources and crisis counseling also being made available after 3 students were killed. At least 5 others remain critically injured. The shooting happened on Monday night. A U-Haul driver accused of running over people in New York City Monday, killing 1 and injuring numerous others, may actually be making a court appearance today. It looks like, let me get the picture of there. This is the suspect. You can see him. His name is Wang Soor. Authorities have charged Mr. Soor with 1 count of murder and 7 counts of attempted murder. Police say, based on interviews with his family members and detectives, it's believed Mr. Soor was suffering from a mental health crisis at the time of that U-Haul incident. And Congresswoman George Santos still refusing all calls to step down. He just will not budge. He says, I'm not leaving, I'm not hiding, and I am not backing down. Santos still hasn't answered questions, though, regarding campaign finances. There's a new push to give California's healthcare workers a big old raise. A state senator plans to reveal a bill today calling for the minimum wage to be $25 an hour for healthcare workers. She says too many workers are on the verge of becoming homeless, even after their crucial role in the pandemic. The legislation would extend to support employees of home health agencies as well. If it becomes law, nearly 2 million workers could see an increase in January. And I think they already did something similar in July for healthcare workers in Los Angeles County. So this would become statewide. First step underway to consider legalizing prostitution in California, at least in San Francisco.
Stop that, Albert, please.
So a San Francisco leader is introducing a resolution, did that yesterday, urging state lawmakers to do just that. She thinks it could also stop sex work going on in one part of the city where barriers, you can see here, have now had to be put up due to all the traffic in the area. So
there's a reason that this place is fun.
It is.
Trying to keep the cars out,
wow.
you know? Yeah, they have to put barricades up to keep the Johns out. I'm telling you.
Wow.
So she says the bill will help zone areas.
Keep the Johns out. Listen to you with the jargon. You got the prostitution jargon.
Right. Yeah, you know.
Why don't they just put up big signs with arrows? Johns this way, right? Through traffic this way, right?
Yeah, drive this way. The police are waiting to intercept you on the other side, right? So the bill will help zone areas so that prostitution isn't happening on neighbors' front doorsteps. She says it could take years to pass. I don't know. Do you think that's condoning prostitution, or should we just kind of accept that it's happening?
Well, this is a controversial thing I'm about to say.
Uh-oh.
But I'm very much against street walking, okay? Very much against street solicitation. I feel the same way about drugs, and you know my view on marijuana or whatever. It's ridiculous that this is still illegal the way it is, but in any part of the country. But I don't want it trafficked on the street. I don't want my kids to have to walk around the sale of sex on their way to, pick up whatever for mom and dad. Now, that said, there should be a way these people, if it's a legitimate way to make a living, they're two consenting adults, I don't see why that shouldn't be legal in internet. Maybe they can, in other words, you can make these deals without making them on the street. Street solicitation, I think, does ruin our communities. And I can't countenance it. But
I wonder, though, how do you
make
make
ways
sure
to solicit,
people...
I understand. Countenance is a ding. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
How do you make sure people aren't being trafficked? So if you make it legal for quote, consenting adults, how do you make sure that everyone's really consenting, that there's not some pimp who's going to beat somebody up, or that the person's really of age, or that they haven't been, beaten down mentally to the point where they can't resist?
You can't know everything, just the way you can't know anybody's personal history that you deal with in any business. And I'm not suggesting it's, the greatest business to be in, but people in that industry actually feel, oftentimes they love it. They feel empowered by it, and they feel though it's a perfectly fine way to make a living. The answer to the sex trafficking question, that is to say, when you're really talking about an exploitation on the levels that we see, where people are essentially sex slaves, obviously that's horrifying. That's why vice cops are there. That's why undercover cops are there, and that's why those rings should be broken up. But when it comes to a lot of these other sort of one-off prostitution things, I don't care, and I don't think society should care and shouldn't waste a lot of money or time. Get them off of the street, though. I don't want it in my communities on the street.
You heard it here first, folks. Mark is for hookers and blow. Well, we finally know who this guy is. Yeah, doesn't look familiar to you yet, but boy, we've been waiting for him. Edwin
My
Castro.
new best friend.
He is the lucky man who won a record-breaking $2.4 billion Powerball jackpot in Altadena, California. The California Lottery making the announcement in a news conference today. Castro decided not to accept a ceremonial check. Though it looks like there's a check there.
You get
ceremonial
nothing.
He wouldn't do it in person, but he issued a statement saying the real winner is the California public school system. That's because $156 million will go toward public education in the state. So, but he's $2.4 billion. He didn't say what he would do with it, but
You're a billionaire overnight. He's taking the payout, as you say, and so he's going to go for, it'll be about $1 billion,
Yeah. I think he's smart to kind of stay under the radar,
Oh my gosh, he's smart. That's where you lose all the money. Everybody's got an investment scheme for you. They want you to fund this and fund that.
That's not fake. That's real.
Yeah. And before you know it, you've lost 400 million of that 900 million.
Well, Mr. Castro, do I have a tip for you? This report, sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz. For more than 30 years, Steve has put his tax knowledge to work for individuals and for businesses. If you need help with your taxes, call Steve Moskowitz at 888-TAX-DEAL or MoskowitzLLP.com. I'm Kim McAllister, and this is The Mark Thompson Show.
They had to close down an entire radio station to silence him. And now, he's here. Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Thompson. The Mark Thompson Show.
Smash it with your iron rod.
This is Mark Thompson.
Hey, which one of you is Mark Thompson?
What he's got going here is a situation.
It's unbelievably offensive.
Put up your pants, my man. Pull up those pants.
Ralph Nader just sent me a book. Did he send you one too?
I offer this sincere apology to you today.
Everything is going extremely well.
Call me a liar. Know what you call me?
You, sir, are a liar.
You are a cover-up artist and you are a liar.
Liar, your pants are on fire!
Google told me.
Can you let him finish, sir? It was wrong, it was stupid, and I'm trying to be a better person.
No.
I'm going to tell you what I think.
What are the porn stars doing?
Do you have a secret now?
Isn't anybody but a weed?
100% effective. How about that?
Say what?
There is no defense for my conduct.
I misspoke. I stand corrected. And I wanted to apologize to the Asian community, the Asian American community.
Time's up, mother effers.
Yeah, time's up, mother effers. Let's do it. Second hour. Great to have you all with us. Mark Thompson Show. I'm Mark. Kim is with us after a 2-day hiatus. Albert is with us. And we're very excited to have you all with us as well. We are a crowd-funded show. Much to do this hour. We'll talk about cold weather in California, but more to the point and more to our long-term concerns, snowpack in California, and how that's actually a really complicated thing. We'll sort of do the reducto on it, and you'll get that even though we've had all the snow, it's the way it melts, it's the speed at which it melts that's all really important when it comes to calculating our water supply and how we'll be affected. So we'll get into all of that. I also have some Chris Cuomo news. You know, Chris Cuomo, the guy who says that it's never easy.
I've told you it's never easy being in this business.
That's the guy. So it's really not easy in this business for Chris Cuomo, and we'll have that story as well. Right now, I do want to acknowledge, as I was saying, we are crowd-funded, and you are the crowd, and we appreciate you stepping up, funding us, because that's how we stay on the air, to be honest. And one of the ways you do it is with super stickers and super chats during our live show. Dwayne Kennedy, City Shapers Inc., San Francisco. What up, City Shapers Inc.? Come on, $49.99.
Big shout out.
Big Dan Ashley shout out. And I have to say, I'm not gonna, but that super sticker for $49.99.
I'm not gonna cry.
It's close. I am so cry adjacent. Thank you, Dwayne. Very, very cool.
Big shout out.
Big shout out again. Love that. Spencer Jaffe, $20. What up, Spencer? Big Dan Ashley shout out.
Big shout out.
Yeah, and how about a thank you so much?
Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much. More dignified way to thank you, Spencer. Appreciate very much your $20 contribution.
That's nice.
Yes. Yeah. Jackie Walker, what up, Jackie?
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Jackie Walker, you're the coolest. Thank you for $10. Appreciate it very much on this Wednesday. Really means a lot. I'll give you a Big Dan Ashley
Big shout out.
Gail Guthrie, always a supporter, always with us, and today with $19.99. Big Dan Ashley shout out. And
thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Gail, for being a part of our community. Appreciate it very, very much. Indeed. Thanks, Gail. Stephanie Brucker for $20.
Big shout
out, Stephanie. Come on. Thank you, Stephanie Brucker. Appreciate it very much for that super sticker. That's just the coolest. What's that? Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, why not?
I like that picture too.
Oh, it's with her cat?
Yeah.
Oh, if it's with her cat, I give you
It kind of looks like that.
Another
see.
Thank you.
We have a black and white cat, tuxedo cat, and we have a black cat. The black cat is the most charming, most magnificent stray cat, and almost like a dog. Like all the other cats sort of either run or hide when anybody comes to the door. She goes, right up to whoever's coming in the door. She is just magnificent. Her name is Cash. Because she's black, and Courtney felt because she's black, and Johnny Cash used to wear black. Okay. She named Cash. Okay. So, anyway, that's really, okay. Sharon Kidd, one of my faves, Sharon Kidd. Thank you.
Thank you.
Big shout out.
Big shout out.
Thank you for $19.99. That's right. Sharon's a regular supporter. It means so much. Really do appreciate it. Look, there it is again. Sharon Kidd, I'm glad I gave you the thank you.
I'm never driving through Willits again without shouting out, Sharon Kidd!
Well, Sharon also sent me the pictures of snow in Willits yesterday. Yeah. Remember yesterday morning I said, wow, I mean, I believe that it's snow, but I'd love to see some pics. And she sent them to me. Yeah, so I actually saw the snow in Willits. So thank you for that as well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for that, Sharon. Very cool. Daryl Leffler for $9.99. Big Dan Ashley shout out. Come on, Daryl. Thank you.
Thanks,
and
everybody.
With the musical notes, I always wondered, is Daryl a musician, a composer?
Bet he is.
Or just somebody who enjoys music? Andreas is back, everybody. Come on. And a round of applause and a big Dan Ashley shout out. Mom is home now. Remember, Andreas has a 94-year-old mother. Mm-hmm. And we were worried about her. She's back home, which is really good news. How is your dad, you were asking? He is stable, which is why I've come back to the studio here, but I am going to go back there, and I'm going to kind of set up something there because he's not in the best shape, and he needs me there. The family needs me there. But it's Andreas, you probably know this, and so many of you, I think, are aware of what I'm about to tell you. It's not only him, it's managing all of these people and things that have to fall into place to take care of him right now. And it's amazing because on December 17th, I have a picture of him, you've seen it, and I sat around a table that same day, and he was fine. And so to see our loved ones and, our parents fall so far so fast, it's very, very hard.
Yeah.
Anyway, Andreas, I'm so glad to hear that your mom is home now. So great. And thank you very much for the $10, and that's another Big Dan Ashley shout out.
Big shout out.
Yeah. Really, really cool. Happy belated Valentine's Day. Love to you all from Ren 0287. I'm going to give you a thank you.
Happy Valentine's, Ren.
$20 from Ren, and thank you. That helps keep the lights on here. It's a weird thing that we need your support. And Ren, thank you. Happy Valentine's Day. I went to a Valentine's party last night. I'll tell you about it in a second. Wow. Are you kidding? Janet R. rocking, first of all, the Mark Thompson Show t-shirt, which you got at getmarkmerch.com. She donates $80, $79, my support in honor of my mom, who passed last week. Wow, is that right? She was the reason I started listening to Station X. Oh, my gosh.
Her mom's
so
name
sad.
was Bonnie. I found out in the chat. So, Bonnie, I'm so sorry, Janet, that happened, and I'm grateful for your support and that you're with us because of her. So, thank you.
Well, that's
I'm sorry for what you're going through right now.
Yeah, it's such a hard thing to digest and to process, and the whole reality of end of life is an intractable one, and one that we really constantly struggle with. It's such a grim reality on one level, and yet it's such a clear reality on another, and you run into people who seem almost to embrace it or embrace the notion of it. I think when you lose a parent, it's very difficult. If you've had a good relationship with that parent, and sometimes even if you had a weird relationship with a parent or a troubled relationship, it can be even more difficult. So, Janet, thank you so much for the support and to honor the memory of your mom, and we so appreciate it here.
We're thinking of you. Yeah.
Yeah, very, very much. So much to do. Thank you all for supporting us in all the ways you do. That was a great round of people who stepped up on this Wednesday and threw something in the pot. It's the
Thank you.
yeah, it's the weirdest part of doing this, I have to say, having to ask or note that we need funds in any way. We try to do it in fun ways. We try to have a merch store. We try, these are all things designed to help support the show because we're crowdfunded. So if you do want to support us, you can go to getmarkmerch.com to get merch. You can also get themarkthompsonshow.com, and that'll take you to Patreon and PayPal. themarkthompsonshow.com. All right, we continue.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Now, we've done very well in the way of snow in California, as you know. And I mentioned snow because we could be doing the side stroke down bush or pine in the city, or, you could really have tons of water in the form of rain at sea level. If you don't have snowpack, you don't have water for the coming season. We are insanely dependent on snowpack and reservoirs that are built for receiving that snowpack. So, how's the snowpack doing? Well, it did well, but, oh my God, I'm getting locked out of this article now, Albert. Unbelievable.
It's doing great. Snowpack's doing great.
Oh my
Let me
God,
grab you another one.
Right?
Oh it's cold in the Bay Area, as you know. Freeze warnings, North Bay, East Bay, South Bay.
Yeah.
Temperatures fell into the 20s in the South Bay, by the way. But it's all easing up. And apparently, slowly, it's going to be warming. So today, for example, temperatures should be in the 40s in the city. Mm-hmm. And we'll see big improvements in nighttime temperatures, they say, through the end of the week.
I'm sorry, it's not the same when you do the weather if you're not dancing. If you could,
it's true. Yeah,
move
I
a
did
little
set
bit.
the bar. Now everybody dances. I was one of the first to I was the first to dance on.
You could just wiggle it just a little bit.
Overnight lows for today. 30s in Santa Rosa, Vacaville hit the upper 30s. Yeah, San Jose hit 31, Santa Cruz to 36. When will the entire Bay Area get relief from these cold temperatures? Not until a Thursday storm system rolls in. You know more about that, right, Kim? This is for tomorrow. Chances for rain are looking unlikely, but the system's light west and southwest winds will ramp up and spread much farther inland, so it'll be a moderation of temperatures, but not a rain, if any.
So I was just reading this story from Green Matters, saying the 2023 Sierra snowpack is the biggest ever, apparently. They're celebrating a second snow survey of the season. It is at its largest in nearly 3 decades. But one of the problems, I guess, with this, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, but this is what I understand, that when you get a snowpack like this, when you get the runoff, which we need to fill our reservoirs, you have so much that apparently it can lead to flooding. And so the flooding, the waters that then flood these communities, we don't get that water, right? It doesn't go into the ponds, reservoirs, streams. It goes, somewhere where we can't save it.
Yeah. The melt season, which shifts because of the drought and because of wildfires, a lot of the scorched landscapes that have snow, they melt earlier. That all gets factored into how much water actually makes it into the reservoirs. So we're going to get water, they say, potentially earlier in the season because it's just going to melt off more quickly. And that puts us out of the phase, according to one scientist, when we want that water and when we need it, when it's actually coming out of the mountains. The Calder fire, which seared through 222,000 acres near South Lake Tahoe, they note, is a perfect example of what we're talking about. The snow fell onto the fire's burn scar that winter. It was exposed to more sunlight because there wasn't a tree canopy to cover it. And charred vegetation from the fire also mixed with the snow to lower its reflectivity, and as a result, the snow melted much faster during a comparable dry spell 10 years earlier. Not quite 10 years, but 8 years earlier. So the reflectivity of snow declined, and when it falls onto burn areas, you don't have the canopy they talk about, and as a result, the snow melts more quickly, and you get a snow melt earlier. We have a lot more area that's now exposed to these potential dry periods and post-fire environments that can lead to melting snow, said one scientist. We should start thinking about how we are going to deal with this because we expect more dry periods in a warmer climate, and we expect more fire in the mountains. So it's giving us reasons to think about how we manage our forests, how we manage our water resources. So you can, you talk about it, Kim, that you could have flooding, and you have reduced water availability for hydroelectric power, even negative effects on the fish species and wildlife. So one of the recommendations they're making is that water managers factor the effects of wildfires on snowmelt into their short and long-term planning because they think this is going to be, there's no one can reasonably argue that we're not going to have more of this every year, right?
Right.
So all of this climate work is getting done, and they think that in U.S. forests across the board, so much more because of fires has been exposed to climate warming and the effects of it. You've just lost so much vegetation because of these fires. So they think that the snowmelt is going to be more vulnerable both to melt and to rain and to all the things that happen as the seasons change.
It's like you go, we needed the snow, we needed the rain, and we were hoping for it, and we went through all these, massive pummeling atmospheric rivers, and now you're telling me what? Now there's something bad about that too? Come on.
It's that all the indications are we got all that snow. Yep. We got great water quality in that snow.
There's never been anything like this.
And now, as it turns out, it all was front loaded.
Yep.
And two things are true. We need more now in February, which is typically our wettest month. Mm-hmm. And we also need more because simply the way in which that water is digested by the state and by the land around it is changing because of all the fires. And that's only going to become a worsening situation. So this is about land management. I think it's about a lot of things that have to do with things we can control and things we cannot control. We can't control the weather. We can control the way we manage land. And there's a whole science to it. So
I think we have to do better about the way we save water. I think we're letting a bunch of it go. It doesn't need to be going.
Of course, that's true. That's absolutely.
And
Kim
we
is
should
so
have
right
figured
about
this
that.
out before now. Every time it rains, I'm like, well, there goes that.
Yeah.
Where is it now?
Most of this water washes out to sea. It's really
As a
true.
matter of fact, there I was in Monterey, looking at the ocean, and a couple asked my daughter to take their photo. They were from Merced, and they're almond farmers. They say almond farmers.
Oh, is that right? They say almond? That's wild.
And so we're talking about farming almonds and how much water it takes.
What?
There I am.
You're thinking, I'll indulge you because you farm it, but I know it's not almonds. But all right, go ahead.
I make fun, making friends wherever I go.
Mm-hmm.
And they were talking about it's been a real struggle for them and how they were glad that they were on the way out, headed toward retirement rather than just starting and on the way in, because they said it's been really rough. So
was their general outlook grim, then you're saying?
Yeah, grim to the point where they don't think that if this was the start of their career or the start of their farming enterprise, that they would have been able to have made a life of it. Yeah.
Wow. I was at this dinner last night, and they just pulled out of a real estate deal, this couple. I think he does pretty well, is my sense of it. And they were going to buy some house with all this acreage. And I think there was almond groves on it. Mm-hmm. And I said, dude, he was really bummed. She was happy that the deal didn't go through. I said, I know you look out over all that acreage and, you sort of think, oh, it's great. But the reality of climate change and the amount of water to maintain that growth, it's a good deal that real estate project didn't go through.
Well, plus you look at buying property on acreage now. It used to be like, oh, you're so lucky, you have all this land, and you're not compacted by neighbors on all sides, and it's amazing. But now I look at properties like that and I'm thinking, if the fire's coming, it's coming there first.
Yeah.
Right.
And there's that as well.
You're in the middle of the mountain and you have a lot of land there, but I'm looking at your property thinking, I don't know.
There's a sense that fire will affect other people, but I'm telling you, as someone who's home burned and my neighborhood, and after it all burned, all those looky-loos came up with their cameras. There was like a string of people, and they were all just shooting the charred wreckage of it. I mean, they were taking pictures of it. Before you know it, you're part of it. You're part of, David Muir and that World News Tonight set up right in front of my house. They go to these disasters, and they're increasing in number. And when you're in California, I think this is the new calculation you have to do. So Kim's, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Something I never asked you is, did you have that moment? I assume you had to leave the house before the fire came your way. Did you have that moment where you thought, what am I going to take? And other than your animals and your girl, your woman, what were the things that you went for? What were the items?
I will answer that question when we come back after your news, and we will discuss it. It actually is a halfway decent story. Part of the story I'll just tell you in 15 seconds or less. Courtney, my other half, she was out of the house so quickly that I couldn't even, into her car and gone with the cat. I couldn't even make a plan with her. She was done, man. DUNNNNN. So that was the first part, but I'll tell you more when we
There's never been anything like this.
All right, Mark Thompson Show.
Oh, look at
The Mark Thompson Show.
It was great. I loved it.
How would you handle this? We could try ignoring it, sir.
Morning.
You cannot say you love your country.
Where are my weed smokers at?
Stay at home and get baked.
Well, put it together for Steve Moskowitz, who is our founding sponsor, and it's always a pleasure to see you, sir, on this Wednesday.
The pleasure is mine. And Kim, I don't want to steal Mark's thunder, but obviously he took his tax documents.
Clearly. Got to have every receipt.
Really the way to handle that, what everybody should do is they should store all of their tax documents forever, not the 3 years the IRS says in their little booklet, in basically an attorney's storage warehouse. And before they store the physical documents, they should scan everything up to the cloud and also scan it to a separate hard disk that's also in a different physical location. And then you don't have to worry about losing documents. And that's come up. And I had a situation where I represented an elderly widow who the state chased her. One day they contacted her and say, well, you didn't file returns for these years. She was a widow. She said, well, I don't know what my husband did. There's no documents. They say, fine, here's your bill. You never want to be in that position. So you always do want to take good care of those documents. And one of the things I pride myself in is giving people advice. For example, just before I called in here, I took a new ERC client, and we'll start off with his CPA told him he didn't qualify. And the CPA only did the math test. This guy, I didn't have to have multiple meetings with him. This was so apparent on its face that this client qualified. So he qualified for a lot of money. And then I started talking to him. I said, so do you have a pension? Why no? I said, well, I'm going to ask you a tough question. Would you like to pay more or less taxes? And he answered he'd like to pay less. And then we went into all the benefits of a pension. And then, like, it's every service that we offered, it was, oh, well, my CPA doesn't do this or that. Now, this is not dump on CPA's day. And as you know, I was a CPA before I was a tax attorney. Right. But there are reasons why I left being a CPA and became a tax attorney. Now, I employ CPAs and I employ attorneys, but it is a crying shame. And I talked with another client earlier today And she said she was unhappy with her CPA. And I said, switch to me. He says, but he's been doing it for all these years. Well, my God, if you're unhappy with it, it's like eating in a it's like that old joke that people eat in a restaurant that they hate the food and then they complain the portions are so small. I mean, come on. So I'm just giving you like just a little daily glimpse that when we talk to people, it's kind of like going to a physician when sometimes you go in for one particular thing and he says, well, while you're here, this number's high and this number's low, and we can really improve your health if you do this and do that. That's what we do. We're not just, a one-trick pony. Where ERC is fantastic, and we're getting clients tons of money for that. But there's other things we do for them too, the tax planning and accounting and tax return preparation and HR services. And one of the things I point up is that small businesses need all these things, but they can't afford to hire a staff of people to do them. And they can't even really hire one full-time person to do it, which you wouldn't even need a full-time person. So basically one of the things we do besides ERC, we say, well, look, we can offer you all these services that you would have from a full-time professional that does this at a fraction of the cost, because you don't need somebody there 40 hours a week. You only need a smattering, but that will do it for you. But kind of like nuclear fuel, a little bit can go a long way, but you have to have some of it or you don't have the benefits. And it just amazes me as I talk with these people with the ERC, how many people have been told they don't qualify because the CPA only did the easy way, the math test, the numbers. And so many other services are not, and sometimes, clients say, is this something new? I love to say, well, you know what, this law just passed 5 minutes ago, and that's why your current guy didn't tell. Oh, and another client I spoke with this morning, these government giveaway programs like ERC that I'm so fond of and PPP, there were others. I talked to a client this morning that also retained us. He was eligible for a lot of money on another government program that's now expired, and his CPA never even told him about it. He didn't know it existed.
No, that's got to be a tough conversation to have with him. Oh, my God.
Well, but the bottom line is, Mark, this guy lost out on hundreds of thousands of dollars that the CPA had just told him about it before it expired, he would have had. And it boggles me how so many people are just, and I hear this all the time, maybe they're doing somebody's taxes for 30 years, but they're so rooted in what they were doing some years ago that might be okay. They don't keep up. And by missing that other government program, this guy missed hundreds of thousands of dollars. Again, it was a giveaway program. It wasn't a loan. It was a giveaway program. He just missed it. And I feel bad for those people.
Sure. But it points out how you really need an actual person doing this stuff. I think of you with the HR apps that are now out there. There are these HR apps, and they're buggy, and I've been on them. I know how they work. They're awful. And rather than get into that situation where so many things can be missed because it's all just robotic, why not reach out to an actual firm?
Absolutely. It's like getting your medical advice from a website.
Thank you. That's exactly what it's like.
The doctors all laugh about those because people misdiagnose themselves all the time.
Sure. And do you want AI to do your diagnosis? No. Do you want your AI to do taxes? Come on. Steve, we have great faith in you, and we have great faith you can help our audience. You can reach Steve at 888-TAX-DEAL, 888-TAX-DEAL, 888-TAX-DEAL. Also online, MoskowitzLLP.com. Steve Moskowitz is Moskowitz. You only need MoskowitzLLP.com. Appreciate you, Steve, and thank you.
Appreciate you. Thanks, guys.
All right, pal. See you. Well done.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Yeah, thank you for this. You're right. Al Anonymous points out we are just passing 9,000 subscribers.
Hey!
Thank you. Very, very cool. Yeah. If you can share the show, makes a big difference.
Thank you.
I know it's hard sometimes to share the show. Like, how do you bring it up in context? Like, how do you, in a conversation? Yeah, I've been watching this show. I think you might want to check it out. I try to support this one show. You can support him too. It doesn't cost anything. Just subscribe. Go on YouTube and just enter the Mark Thompson Show, and you can help him.
Let's get to 10,000. Let's do it.
That'll be great. But I'm really happy with the 9,000.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, everyone. We're going for 10,000 now, if you would, please. Very, very good indeed.
Maybe we can incentivize getting to 10,000. Maybe we'll do something special. Maybe.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, Albert. Do you have anything in mind? You're
Ooh, it's a wild idea, but it just might work.
Albert came up with a take on, he has takes on life, Kim.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe we don't hear a lot of them because he feels as though, it can't always work them into the show. I call it the wisdom of Albert. For example, I'll give you one. Albert feels you should always set the bar low.
Right.
Yeah.
We've discussed this.
Yeah. That way
Agreed.
you'll always hit your goal, I don't set the bar super high, but I usually set a high bar. I demand a lot of myself and I want, but Albert sets the bar very low.
It's nice to always have the potential in your back pocket. You could go really high, but you're going to keep that in your back pocket in case, like break glass in case of emergency, bust out the big guns type of thing.
Well, so that's the wisdom of Albert right there. Set the bar low is one of the things. Then yesterday, he came up with something else, didn't you, Albert? What was the wisdom of Albert yesterday? People are always...
I have to pull up the clip. It just came naturally, Mark. It was like something came over me.
I actually pulled up. Do you have the clip? Can we run it for everybody?
I don't have the clip, but let me go pull it up right now.
Oh my God! All right, this is. It's.
I have some breaking news while he does that. You want to go ahead? Let's do a newscast.
We haven't done a newscast at all. Oh, we did Steve Moskowitz.
Yeah.
A major announcement from the Mark Thompson Show.
Oh, no, we have, you're saying it's a newscast. It's more than a major. There's several major announcements. All right.
Unless you just want the breaking news. You want to skip the rest?
No, I want the newscast. I'm very sorry. I got talking to Steve and I didn't.
Kim, how are you?
Before I know it, it's all past
The newscast will give me some time to go pull up a...
All right, smash the like button like a boss.
Smash it with your iron rod.
I haven't lost track of what we're going to do. When we come back, we're going to give you the wisdom of Albert from yesterday. And we will. You got your father to subscribe? Thank you, Spencer.
Yeah,
He'll never have a disappointed moment. Thank you. And if Spencer's dad is watching, I want to say hello. But the other thing I want to under-promise, over-deliver. Thank you, Cynthia. You and Albert, we get along well. The other thing I will do is I haven't forgotten. We will update. I will tell you that story of us evacuating, but I'll make it. I'll move it along. Don't worry. Okay. But how the home burned, and KGO is involved. So if you're a KGO listener, there is a KGO connection. It's a big KGO connection to the night that my home burned. Okay. Smash the like button like a boss, and how about a little something for Kim McAllister? She's back, and here she is with her over-the-top news theme. Yes. Oh, it's great. It's like a medieval newscast.
Yeah. On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister. This report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz at 888 Tax Deal. I'd like to get to some breaking news at this time because the beautiful Raquel Welch has died. TMZ reporting that Raquel Welch is dead at the age of 82. According to her family, she died this morning after a brief illness. Welch, of course, well known for her roles in Fantastic Voyage and 1 Million Years BC. What an absolute icon. Here's one in her younger years. But she was amazing, until the end, and still in movies and still looking wonderful. And again, 82 years old, and we understand that she has passed away.
Was stunning and sexy and a, pinup woman or pinup girl alongside being a screen queen. We can say, well, she's known for her fine work in Fantastic Voyage. Okay, maybe, which true. That she is known. But let's be honest, she wasn't in any project that really was super high end, and yet she occupied this rarefied air in Hollywood, where you are a starlet, despite the fact that you're not in anything that again is necessarily a project that would be respected in terms of some kind of art that you might evaluate, a cinematic art piece, if might be a way to put it.
Well, and she had one of those names where if you're looking at it, you're looking for a movie, and all of a sudden she appears on screen. You're thinking, oh, well, Raquel Welch is in it. All right.
Right. I mean, she was sexy as hell, and that was part of who she was. Her name was not Raquel Welch, I don't think. It was Jo Raquel Welch. Okay, so her actual name, she was born Tejada. Was it Tejada? Yeah. And she became this, again, I mean, just incredible starlet, right? I mean, she was in Myra Breckenridge, which was a movie in the late 60s. That was pretty high profile. She was on all the talk shows all the time, all the variety shows all the time. She was in a movie called Bedazzled in the late 60s, Bandolero. I'm looking at her list of films that she had strong roles, though, for women, but she continued to be a sex symbol. Don't you think, Kim? That was her thing. Yeah.
It's interesting because she never had that little old lady look or got the roles that, would be like somebody's grandmother. And maybe she was somebody's grandmother, but she was somebody's smoking hot grandmother. She was gorgeous until even now. I mean, until the end. She's 82 years old and she's continued to be a bombshell.
She was ranked number 3 on the 100 sexiest stars of the 20th century list. And her daughter, actually, Tawny Welch, I believe her name is. She was in that movie Cocoon.
Google it.
Yeah. And then I think left show business, her daughter Tawny. But Raquel Welch, to Kim's point, and she had a cameo appearance in Naked Gun, and she was an iconic figure. And I'm looking now, she was in Legally Blonde also. She had supporting roles in the comedy films Legally Blonde and Tortilla Soup. Legally Blonde opposite Reese Witherspoon in 2001. So she was working, as you say, all the way to the end, it seems, or close to the end.
And had a great sense of humor and a great laugh. Yeah.
I'd run some stuff of her on The Tonight Show, but I don't want to get a copyright strike. Yeah.
She's so pretty.
Married her high school sweetheart, James Welch, in 1959. We had 2 kids together, she says, Damon and Tawny. Yeah. They separated in 1962, so they only lasted 3 years. Divorced in 64. She retained his last name, Welch. Then she married producer Patrick Curtis in 1967. Divorced him in 1972. In 1980, she married producer Andre Weinfeld. Dumped him in 1990. That was 10 years. Then she married Richard Palmer, owner of Mulberry Street Pizzeria. Then separated from him in 2003, 1999 to 2003. It's 4 years. And didn't get married after that. But that's a very respectable run, isn't it, Albert, for... Yes, I think so.
Yeah, shouting distance to our favorite Larry King, right?
Yeah, Larry King, who really sets the bar very high. But
what can you tell us about the scene?
4, I think, is where she ends up. Anyway, that's very sad. And how old was she again, Kim?
82. She was 82 years old, according to TMZ, and I haven't confirmed it with other networks.
While her image in the 1960s was that of a torrid sex temptress, Welch's private life was quite different. Welch once famously said, quote, "What I do on the screen is not to be equated with what I do in my private life. Privately, I am understated and dislike any hoopla." She said, quote, "I was not brought up to be a sex symbol, nor it is my nature to be one. The fact that I became one is probably the loveliest, most glamorous, and fortunate misunderstanding in history."
Oh.
Yeah. She's anyway, my friend at the time how I don't know how to say this. Let's see. The executive producer of American Idol, when I was working on it, I was the voice of American Idol for, what was it, 15 seasons. And so in the first 8 seasons, the executive producer was a guy named Nigel Lithgow. You might know him because he also was one of the judges on So You Think You Can Dance. He walked into a party one night, a party where I was there with some other people, also from the show. And who did he walk in with? Who was his date? Raquel Welch.
Right on.
And they dated for a little while, I think. And I mean, even in her older
That's not
years,
fake. That's real.
It turned heads and stopped the room. She looked great and continued to have that iconic status. So she had that. She was a movie star. She was a glamorous movie star.
That means you had the chance to meet her then.
Yes, I did meet her. I mean, again, for 7 seconds, but it was the best 7 seconds of my life. Anyway.
Raquel Welch.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying showing all these pictures of her.
Do you know who I am? I'm kind of a big deal.
That's exactly what I said when I met her, yes.
Major icons
Ms.
that
Welch.
pass. And it feels
Nice
like
to meet
when
you.
you lose someone like her, it's truly the end of an era.
Yeah, you're right. It's yet another bit of evidence of the end of an era. Wow.
Okay, so Raquel Welch has passed away at the age of 82. There are some residents in Ohio, in Palestine, Ohio, who
They are
will
not happy.
finally be able to ask some questions at a town hall. This after a train derailed, caught fire, toxic chemicals spewed forth 12 days after this toxic train cars derailed in their city. Governor Mike DeWine has previously said the state was never alerted of the train even passing through, that it would be carrying these chemicals passing through, that it wasn't classified as carrying highly hazardous materials. So the town hall set for this evening. Hopefully people there will get some answers to their questions. And the back and forth over whether the water is safe to drink there continues. So maybe they'll get some answers to that as well.
I encourage everybody to check out our breakout videos on this. We discuss how lax regulation and regulatory capture led to this. This has everything associated with it that is wrong with this country. And I know I love the country, but, changes do need to take place to make sure this doesn't happen. So the people who live in America, proud Americans, aren't exposed to this. So David K. Johnston talked about it yesterday. And the day before that, I ran the video from The Lever. They had essentially a breakdown of how the braking system on these trains that was supposed to be put into place because of an Obama edict, it was rolled back during the Trump administration, and essentially they didn't have that braking system in place. Now, I think there'd still have been an accident, but it would not have been as bad. And that's when you get to a lot of the other stuff we touched on. Understaffing, lax regulation, length of train. It's shameful. And it's an ongoing catastrophe. So I'm glad those residents will get some answers tonight.
Well, and look at that picture and think about what would happen if that was in your own community, if that's your town. Now, every time you get in the shower, every time you turn on the tap water, or you boil noodles to make spaghetti for your kids or whatever, you're thinking, is this safe? What am I feeding my family? Are my kids taking a bath in this tainted water? And can I afford to move out of here? This is America. Look at that.
Well, you know something, Kim? I'm so glad you mentioned this, because this is the last thing that I didn't get a chance to touch on. And it's this. People's faith in government is challenged during times like this. COVID did the same thing to us, where you ask the question, are they being straight with me? Are they telling me the truth? Is the water safe? Is the air safe? We had the same stories around 9/11. After 9/11, they did air quality samples, and they said, oh, the air is safe. It's all below federal thresholds for those chemicals and other, what do they call that stuff?
Toxins?
Particulate matter that would be harmful to you. Toxins, exactly.
Yeah.
So the reality is that we don't know whether those statements are accurate, and they're not even testing for every kind of toxin. You understand, when they check the water, they check for a certain number of toxins. and it's not an across-the-board test for toxins. All I'm trying to say is, as you are a resident of that community and the communities downstream, Cincinnati, Ohio, among them, and it's only 45 minutes from Pittsburgh, I think, you end up with questions about government and how honest government is being. Public officials seem really anxious to get the trains moving again. They seem a little less anxious to get things cleaned up and to make sure everybody's safe.
Right.
Anyway, all right. So, but the faith we have in public officials and government is challenged in moments like this, and I wanted to make that point.
No, thank you. All right, I got to get this newscast moving. The skies have been clear of any flying objects recently. That, according to Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin. Crews still working to retrieve debris from 3 objects downed in the United States and Canada over the weekend. And President Biden's pick to lead the IRS is now facing some questions from lawmakers over billions of dollars in new funding for the agency. Former acting IRS Commissioner Daniel Werfel was pressed by Republicans on if the $80 billion for the agency from the Inflation Reduction Act will actually result in audits of hardworking Americans. The Biden administration has claimed the funds will only be used for audits of the highest earners. Apparently, Americans kind of skeptical of the benefits of artificial intelligence. We're not so sure if we want this or not. A new Monmouth University poll shows just 9% of Americans believe AI's impact on society will do more good than it will do harm. That compared to 46% of respondents who said AI development will do about the same amount of good and harm, and 41% who believe AI will harm society overall. Here's a nice story. Make-A-Wish America is getting quite a big donation from basketball great Michael Jordan just before he turns 60 years old. The icon donating $10 million to the Make-A-Wish Foundation. He said he's been a partner with Make-A-Wish for more than 3 decades. Yeah. So there you have it. Well done. This report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz for more than 30 years. Steve has put his tax knowledge to work for individuals and for businesses. If you need help with your taxes, please call Steve Moskowitz. He is at 888-TAX-STEAL, or at the bottom of your screen, you can see it all spelled out at MoskowitzLLP.com. And just to recap, our breaking story, of course, is Raquel Welch, the passing of Raquel Welch at the age of 82 after a brief illness. I'm Kim McAllister, and this is The Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Wow, I am saddened by that news about Raquel Welch. As you say, it was a quick illness and didn't even know she was,
Yeah.
She was.
I was wanting to tell you. It's like you have a story like that, a big piece of news, and you just want to say it. But I was waiting for the newscast and finally, I'm like, listen, I got a breaking story, Thompson. Let's get to the news.
You got to do it. We had a lot going on with Rothman, Moskowitz.
It's a busy day.
Conversations going on. It's a
bummer. It's a bummer to lose her, though.
Yeah. I agree. Just because she's so much a part of, somebody like that is sort of a through line for a lot of lives through the decades. To have that kind of staying power, wow, pretty extraordinary. So, Albert, what are we doing here? Did you want to follow up on your wisdom, or now do you feel, with the world downcast on the Raquel Welch news, do you feel more awkward about that?
It's a little awkward, but we can just keep on pushing through. You kind of close your eyes, just let Jesus take the wheel. And
that's very, very good. I love.
This is a word from the Lord, and He's not happy.
Okay,
yes,
well,
exactly.
Yeah. It's hard to get Mark to stop talking.
Everyone is using something to get somewhere, Mark. That's what I said.
Oh, yeah. That was the bit of wisdom yesterday from Albert. Is the so I actually said to Shadow, I sent Shadow a note, and I said, Albert is all of a sudden starting to crank out these little takes on things, like you always have to set the bar low.
Yeah.
That way, you'll never be disappointed. Then he comes up with the quote again?
Everyone is using something to get somewhere.
Yeah. Exactly. And I asked Shadow to give us a little wisdom of Albert open, so he did. He's so cool to oblige.
Ladies and gentlemen, The wisdom of Albert.
Yeah, so you always like Albert. Shadow likes that the thunder, rain. So then Albert would come through with it again. So remind us again, everyone's using something, Albert. What was it?
Yep, everyone is using something to get somewhere. That's what I could leave you with.
All right, well, that's very, very cool.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen,
everyone's using something.
The wisdom of Albert.
Get somewhere. Yeah, very, very well done, Albert. Who knew that Albert is a philosopher as well as a producer? Well, I did promise, but now I'm toward the end of the show. I did promise to tell you the story quickly of an answer to your question.
Mm-hmm.
So
I had asked you, what's the one thing you grab? Right.
We evacuated twice, and a lot of Bay Area residents and California residents know this story. And even if you're watching from other parts of the country, maybe you've evacuated for one reason or another, flooding, fire. In our case, it was fire. We evacuated once before. Always you get the pets into the pet carriers, you get them to the car first, and then you go in for whatever else. I do the medicine, whatever. You can imagine someone like myself on a lot of medications. So, no, it's weird because I didn't really have any medicines, but I thought we might be away for a while. So you just grab little stuff that you'll need, which is stupid. You don't really, and then pictures is what I grabbed. I grabbed boxes of pictures, and I had them all in one place, and I ran them out to the car. So, yeah, pets and pictures. There it is. Michael said it right here.
I saw one person. They took their good china, and they put it in their swimming pool. Have you seen pictures of people doing that?
No, that's wild.
So like maybe you can't put it in the car, you can't pack it all, but you set it in the pool, and it stays unbroken, unburned, and safe.
That's interesting. Albert, what would you take? You seem to have this new take on life, gives you a certain perspective. What would you have all those sneakers? He's a sneaker collector.
Oh,
would you grab a bunch from your sneaker collection? Your most valuable sneakers?
I've thought about this a lot, Mark. There's a lot in that I have I'm not willing to part with, and unfortunately we do live in a place where there's a lot of fire. So I have thought about it. I'd take maybe a couple pairs of shoes, but for sure my dogs. Like I'm not hesitation grabbing my dogs.
Okay, the dogs, but after the dog, all of us are grabbing the animals. Okay, every living thing.
The living
after
creatures
that,
and
what do you
beings
get?
in your house.
Exactly.
Maybe the autographed K-pop albums. Maybe those will come with me, and a couple pairs of shoes. The rest of the electronics, I could always get them back.
What shoes are you grabbing, Albert? You only have seconds to grab them. Which ones are you grabbing?
I have a couple pairs of really expensive Jordans that are pretty old now that I could sell for a lot, and a couple pairs of a very controversial rapper who's been saying a lot of crazy things the past couple years. I do have a pair of his shoes that do also sell for a lot. So
it's interesting that you are grabbing these things because they sell for a lot or because they're of sentimental value. It sounds to me like just because they sell for a lot. So like if they were sitting there on the floor next to a pile of money, you could just grab the money just as easily. Am I right?
Exactly. It's my investment, Mark. This is my future. I'm taking my future with me.
So you grab the investments as okay.
The drum set will have to stay. This champagne
drum sets, pictures not mentioned. He grabs a couple of autographed K-pop albums and a couple of sneakers that he can sell for a lot of money. Everyone, that is Albert. That is the wisdom.
Of Albert.
He's saying if you have the autographed albums and the sneakers that are worth a lot, those are the things you want. Yeah. Well done, Albert. All right. We grabbed just that. I grabbed the pics and I grabbed the animals when we took off. The one thing I will now we're late, aren't we?
Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah, I'll tell you this real quick.
Yeah.
Because I said I would. When the house actually burned, okay, we were evacuated twice. When the house actually burned, I wasn't in the house. I was.
Well, thank God.
Albert, do you remember where we were? You were there.
Yeah, we were at Station X. We were together. We're doing a live show.
That's
right. You were on the air as your house burned down?
We were.
Albert, thank you.
We were in that debate thing. Remember Armstrong and Getty, myself, Rothman, Ron Owens, we were all there.
You were at a KGO All-Star event.
And even as that was going on, the fire had begun. And then I went back to the hotel, and we were up and concerned, and then we got a call from the house sitter, and you could hear the cat screaming in the background. She was calling from the car. Without her, they wouldn't have survived, I don't think. And, she literally had to herd cats, right? Get them all out, all 4 of them. And then, and this was the eeriest thing, I called up the security camera feed, and you could see the embers, and there were tons. It looked like a snow globe. You could see the embers outside the house. And I turned to Courtney and I said, we're going to lose the house tonight. It was brutal. And you could actually, from the camera on one side of the house, see the flames lapping up against this exterior wall. It was incredible. And the house didn't burn down. It did burn, but it didn't burn down. Many of the houses in the neighborhood, most of the houses in the neighborhood burned to the ground. So, and I told you the story when I returned to the house the next day from that event that we did at KGO. I returned to the house. The entire neighborhood was evacuated, and you weren't allowed in. Even if you were a resident, they didn't allow you in. I used a political police connection to get back in. So the cop led me back up to the house, and I was been up all night, and you can imagine I was overdrawn emotionally, and there were all of these 5, as I recall, firefighters standing right in front of the house. It looked like a photo shoot for Vanity Fair. They had the charcoal on their face, whatever that is, the ash on their face, and they're wearing those yellow slickers. And I'm wearing sunglasses because I've been crying and I've been emotional and all this sort. And I'm choking back this emotion as I've driven up this moonscape on the way to my home. And there is the house, and most of it is there intact. And I said, I want to thank you for saving this house. I know this was an extraordinary night, and I'll never be able to really tell you how much gratitude I have. And I'm choking back the words as I say it. And then I kind of reached the end of my thing, and the guy said, sir, we're so glad we saved your house, but I have to be honest, we just got here 20 minutes ago. And so there it goes. Yeah, it took it did take the, I'm just saying it took the moment. The moment did lose a little something out.
Yeah.
So
here's from the event. This is moments before the breakdown here.
Yeah, there we are. That's it from the event.
You guys are looking sharp there.
Yeah, it was a coat and tie event for us. Nikki's show is coming up on the Nikki Maduro channel. You should go check it out. Kim will continue over there. Great to have Kim back. And we did a lot of stuff today. Thank you I feel like a lot of people stepped up to support the show today, and I really appreciate that too.
Yeah.
As we hit 9,000 subscribers, we hope to do even more things as the show evolves and continues to evolve through a lot of challenges in the new year. Is that Dillette? Dillette? Wait a minute. Dillette. Thank you.
Mark Thompson Show.
From my ragdoll kitties, Phoebe and Donna, or Una.
Out of time.
And from my service dog, Harper. Ragdoll kitties. Oh, that's so cool. I'm gonna give you a proper thank you tomorrow, all right? And I'm not gonna cry.
I'm not gonna cry.
All right, till tomorrow. Bye-bye.